Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And for all of those fans out there that's been requesting a legitimate PlayStation Portable return, I'm with you all, by the way. I'm a huge fan of the PlayStation Vita myself, and, well, there has been some ongoing information that points towards a potential PlayStation Vita successor. Yeah, we're not talking about another PlayStation Remote Play device either. That's not what's happening here at all, but rather, instead, we're talking about a brand new PlayStation handheld that will play games locally. So, today I'm going to explain why expectations are growing that PlayStation is returning to the handheld market once again. Now, we also got updates for Grand Theft Auto 6 and PlayStation on PC, so do make sure to stay tuned for all of that. But let's just go and get right into this new PlayStation Portable story. Now, if you watched yesterday's video, I told you all I do expect both PlayStation and Xbox to jump into the handheld market here in the next few years. Now, the reason I believe that really just kind of comes down to the fact that handheld technology is now capable of running a lot of the games that PlayStation and Xbox likes to make. Sure, there's going to be sacrifices involved. Don't expect a handheld game to look as good as their home console counterpart. But we've seen it time and time again on platforms like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. A lot of the games that Xbox and PlayStation puts on Steam actually runs very well on these platforms, including, well, Sony's latest release, Ghost of Tsushima. So, yeah, I mean, a new PlayStation handheld is more than possible by this point, and it's really only going to become more likely as this handheld technology evolves in the coming years. I mean, looking back on it, the biggest struggle that Sony ran into with the Vita was supporting it because most of their first-party studios were focused on the PlayStation 4. However, considering the technology has evolved the way it has, if they make a new handheld, they can essentially make it play the same games as their console counterpart. That more or less would fix the main issue that they had with the Vita. Well, this is where things get interesting because according to two different sources, that actually very much appears to be exactly what PlayStation is planning. Now, this leak originally came from a Russian journalist by the name of Anton Logvinov, and check this out. He said, by the way, I can confirm that Sony is preparing a new PSP for release, but there are only PlayStation 4 games in the launch lineup, which are generally available on PC and therefore on Steam Deck. Retail chains, by the way, are quite skeptical. Either Sony is doing something completely, or they are still keeping secrets from their partners. Now, this is not exactly the first time that we've heard this rumor either. This actually echoes what we heard from Moore's Law's Dead not all that long ago, because he also recently said that Sony is working on a handheld that can play PlayStation 4 games. Now, as far as I'm aware, PlayStation 5 games haven't been ruled out, and that is an important part of this story. We keep hearing about this handheld that will play PlayStation 4 games. We have not got a confirmation on whether or not it will include PlayStation 5 or even beyond. And while I definitely think that there's a market for a PlayStation 4 handheld just because, it has so many amazing games, the very thought of being able to play its massive catalog, including God of War, Uncharted, Ghost of Tsushima, Gravity Rush, and really the list just kind of goes on and on and on. That sounds pretty amazing on paper, but I would still hope that if they do release a new handheld as it is claimed, that it will get to play new games as well. If you buy something just one time and you never get a new game for it, that is, that's going to majorly limit its reach. But if they do somehow manage to include new games as well, this new handheld would be a major inclusion for them for a long time going forward, especially over in Japan. That's something that we have seen over time. They've really lost a lot of the market share to Nintendo because the Japanese market does prefer handhelds, and a new handheld from Sony could go a long way in helping them out over in Japan. Now, another reason that this rumor is taking off, though, is because of a new Sony job listing. And check this out. So it's been spotted that they're recruiting for program compatibility system development between different CPU architectures. The description states that the roles and responsibilities include to develop systems to enable programs developed for our entertainment game consoles to run on game consoles with different architectures. Specifically, we will enable a large number of game titles developed for PlayStation to run on the new architecture system. This system must be equipped with a mechanism to facilitate defect analysis in the event of problems. So a lot of people are taking this job description and they're adding it to the rumors that we've already been hearing about a handheld, and they're coming to the conclusion that this other architecture could possibly be them working on a brand new handheld, as those rumors suggest. And truthfully, I do think that seems very plausible in this situation and from everything that we currently know. Now, it is important to understand, though, that this is still not a guarantee, but I think that there are a lot of reasons to believe that Sony could possibly be looking into a handheld of some sorts, as I just mentioned a moment ago. Now, to be completely fair, though, I should also point out that there's also speculation that this job listing could point to PlayStation 6 backwards compatibility, and there's also belief that the PS6 could use a completely different architecture than what we're used to seeing. Instead of AMD, they could actually go with ARM. Maybe they're no longer satisfied with AMD, which, I mean, they're even working on their own AI upscaling technology for the PlayStation 5 Pro, PSSR, so maybe they could switch architectures next generation. For that matter, there's also been rumors that Xbox could switch to ARM as well. So that could actually be a big potential change for these next generation consoles if all of that actually ends up holding true. I want to hear from you all, though. What's your take on this job listing? Do you think it's alluding to a brand new handheld, or do you instead believe it has something else to do with the PlayStation 6? Now, speaking of PlayStation, though, of course, they just dropped Ghost of Tsushima on PC, and apparently it's been an extremely successful launch for them. So much so that it's now their biggest single-player launch, narrowly beating out God of War. Ghost of Tsushima has already reached a peak high of 77,000 players on Steam compared to God of War, which reached a 73,000 peak high. Now, obviously, Helldivers 2 is Sony's biggest PC game to date with a massive 457,000 peak high. But, I mean, whatever the case may be, Sony is finding success on PC. That much is very clear here, and this really is the exact reason why they are committing to a more aggressive quote-unquote multi-platform approach, which has a greater emphasis on PC. I mean, we've talked about this a few different times, but their new leadership definitely seems to have a bigger focus on PC, and when you see all the success that they've had this year, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see why this is a core strategy for them going forward. There's also rumors that God of War Ragnarok will get a PC announcement sometime soon, and depending on when that game releases, it could potentially be the shortest window for one of their big single-player PlayStation 5 games to PC. Typically, they stagger their games by about 2 years for that PC version, but I think by this point, we could start to see that window decrease over time. I think with today's environment, PC is a must-release platform to lower the risk for some of these bigger AAA games, and we're seeing the success that PlayStation is having on PC, so big congrats to Sony on their PC success. Now, lastly, we also got another update for Grand Theft Auto 6, and this actually follows their financial report from last week, where they indicated that Grand Theft Auto 6 will launch in fall of 2025. Well, in a follow-up interview with CNBC, Take-Two CEO was asked about the timing of GTA 6's release date and why they chose to narrow that window down to fall of 2025. His response was quite simple, and that's that they're highly confident in that release window. He also went on to elaborate by saying you can measure certain elements and whether a game is ready or not by the amount of bugs a game has. But in the case of GTA 6, he interestingly said that this decision was not made because of bugs. Rather, in his wording, Grand Theft Auto 6 is an extraordinary title with extraordinary expectations. That's probably a little bit of an understatement here, but he said that that decision was made because it's an experience that nobody has ever seen before, and that Rockstar seeks perfection. He noted that perfection is hard to measure, it's more subjective than objective, but that's how they decided upon its release. Whatever the case may be, though, GTA 6 does sound like it's going to be a generational experience based on his wording, and its release window is pretty much set in stone by this point unless something unforeseen happens. Now, you never really fully know about something like that, but with GTA 6 set for late 2025, this also means that we should start to expect some marketing rather soon. We could start to see more trailers within the next 12 months. Maybe we'll get some gameplay rather soon. And, we saw what happened with the first trailer. It kind of broke the internet, so I can only imagine what it's going to be like when they do show eventual gameplay. As always, though, do hit that subscribe button because I'll be here with you all every step of the way. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but do let me hear your opinions in the comments below. And until next time, peace out.